everyone, welcome to IoT Live. This is a surprise stream. The bits arrived for my Pico producer, so I thought I'd might as well try streaming this live, me soldering this thing together. So down here I've got the original Pico producer that you can see just here. So it's a whole heap of wires hanging out at the back of that. And so I've actually created a PCB that you can see on this particular feed just here. So there's two different types here. I've got green ones and purple ones. These purple ones here are from a company called Osh Park in America, and they make these lovely looking purple PCBs with the gold copper layer here for soldering your components to. It's they really are quite pretty in those colours. The gold and the purple work really well together. They work out about about $36 delivered for three, which isn't too bad really. I mean, and they came fast as well. Although a nice chap on Twitter actually upgraded me, so I think these would have been about 5 weeks normally at the price I paid. But even so, that's not bad if you're not in a massive rush. And then these ones here, these are from PCBWay, which are based in China. And these are $16 for five, but take a little bit longer to come. But not massively long. These came yesterday, I think probably about 3 weeks after I ordered them, which isn't too bad really. And the quality is very similar between the two of them. Quite happy with that. Hey Dean, how's it going? Thanks for joining me on. Obviously, I wasn't able to watch yours live because I was giving a presentation that night, but I did catch up on it, and it was a very entertaining stream that was. Hey, Quasar. I'm just going to call you that. I know what your name is. But thanks for coming. Obviously, I know quite well that you produce some awesome boards for the Sam Coupe. If you've not heard what Sam Coupe is before, then that's like a logical upgrade from the Spectrum, if you will. It was sort of touted that way. It never really should have been. I think that crippled it by calling it that. But Mr. Quasar and Mert as well. Hi down there, and Mert as well. You've been doing some congratulations on your MVP for a start. But yeah, Mr. Quasar, Sam Coupe down there has produced some fantastic boards for the Sam Coupe. One of which is the Trinity, which allows you to be able to load disk images from an SD card, which is invaluable. Really cool. So I mean, I started out my career, funnily enough, creating PCB layouts and PCBs themselves at Loughborough University, where we were making bomb disposal equipment, of all things. And I was on a placement there from college and ended up with a part-time job there as well, working with a chap called Terry West, who I'm still in contact with now. Offered me that position there, and yeah, it was really, really valuable. So I was taking schematics and converting those into PCB layouts, and then actually fabricating the PCBs, using chemicals, all the bits and bobs of chemicals on there, and then drilling the holes and putting vias in there. And vias are so you can leap between the forwards and backwards of the board, and then putting the components in there and testing it. And it was really interesting. I mean, obviously I was using an old DOS program. But these days I use something called KiCad, which is an open source free piece of software, absolutely fantastic for designing not only schematics but the PCBs themselves as well. So I mean, I'm not going to type on my streaming machine because if I do that, then the hotkeys don't work on my Pico producer anymore. So you'll see me looking down here, and I've got the Twitch app down here as well, so I can do all of my typing down there. So it's even telling me about the I'm going to appear as me rather than Azurish as well. So hello, there we go. So if I switch back to this, so I've got the PCBs obviously, so I'll be doing this one here today, and I've got a bunch of buttons which I've actually put into this 3D printed faceplate already. So you can see we've got 12 buttons, 12 Cherry MX key switches and some 3D printed keycaps. This is the second go at printing these particular keycaps, and they're still not right. They're a little bit too tight. The first ones were too tight; they wouldn't fit at all. These ones are ever so slightly too tight, and I think, in fact, I forget one of the failures before. It's going to be quite difficult to set. There we are. So you've got two little sort of U-shaped elements there that kept breaking off of Johnny's printed keycaps. I think his filament had it, but I think maybe they're ever so slightly too big. So I think they're actually getting caught in the key switch itself. So I might need to play with that again. But I wanted to make these slightly bigger. I mean, the original ones, you can see the here. Look, the original ones are slightly smaller, and you can see that they leave a gap around, which is great for clearance. But I wanted to cover as much of that LED as possible. So there's even a cutout that I've made there for the LED, and I think Dean, when you printed yours, you made a cutout for yours as well. But it turns out that for that one it wasn't actually needed. So what's Mr. Quasar Sam Coupe saying? I remember the DOS version of OrCAD. Yeah, in fact, it might have been that I was using. Horrible. I use Eagle myself. Yeah, I tried to use Eagle, but the free version, you're limited to like 1 inch by 1 inch PCBs, or the equivalent, which is just it's too low. I don't know why I'm coughing already. But anyway, so I started making this in EagleCAD as it happens, and then I tried to drag the components around on the PCB layout, and it wouldn't have it. And then I looked up on the internet, and it was like, oh yeah, the free version is 1 inch by 1 inch. So yeah. 5 mm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that wouldn't help. You'd need to take a pair of scissors to the edge of the LED to fit a 5mm LED into the buttons that have got the hole in it. I've actually ordered some of those buttons, but I think they must be coming from China now. They're going to take ages. And I'm planning, I think, to create a newer version of this PCB with the LEDs down here in the button layout. So I mean, you can sort of see. If I just put it down, actually, it might be easier. You can see that there's the square for the layout of the button, and the button fits in that perfectly. And the buttons that Dean's talking about there's an actual space for the LED in the button, which is quite nice at the bottom. So I may create a newer version of this to take that, and then this will make it actually look a lot better. I kind of just wanted to progress on from where I had, because I just had regular Cherry MX key switches, which I can't find the spare ones. Don't know what I've done with them. Oh, here we are. Oh. So that's what a regular Cherry MX key switch looks like when it's not actually in that faceplate. And that was the area that I think those bits are getting caught in down here. Quite hard to see. But that actual key switch goes into the body there a little bit, and I think those cutouts that I was talking about in there, wherever you might not be able to see them because it overexposes it. There we are. You can just see them there. I think they're getting caught actually in there, so I need to make them a little bit smaller. But I mean, 3D printing stuff's easy because that takes it takes 4 hours to print out 12 of these types of buttons. I mean, I've not got a Prusa printer like the lucky Cliff Aegis. I've got an Ender 3, which I think I've persuaded at least a couple of people to go and buy recently. So it takes a little bit longer. But Cliff recommended this Magigoo stuff to me as well. And since I've started using that, then things are a lot easier. My first layer adhesion on the Ender 3 wasn't particularly good. So I had to print a raft every time, which took ages and massive waste of PLA. So this prints straight on the bed now. Without any problems. It's good stuff, and I've printed these key switches now. You'll see these ones are in white, but it might be difficult to see, but these are actually translucent PLA, so I just wanted to see what that looked like. I've not tested any of this, by the way, yet, so it's entirely possible that I'll connect all this lot, get a quicker printer. Yeah, Cliff, yeah, absolutely, I'd like that. Are you going to donate one of your many Prusas? That way I can at least get it past my wife. So I've not tested any of this. I mean, if this was something that I was worried about the components blowing up in, then I would probably go around that with a meter, something like this old fluke that I've got here, old reliable fluke. But it's a bunch of resistors and LEDs and buttons, so it's all pretty low-tech stuff. So I'm not particularly worried. The only thing I would be worried about is if for some reason it managed to blow up the USB on my computer. That would be the problem. But to be fair, the most I'm going to do is short 3.3 volts to 0 volts. So I'll know pretty quick whether or not it's working or not. So yeah, I should do that. No, yeah, that's terrible. You do tell us when you're flying, so I might just nip round and grab myself one while you're not there. So I've got all the components laid out in front of me. I've got 12 LEDs, and these are resistor packs. So turned out that these were quite difficult to get hold of, actually. I had to order these from a company called Mauser in America, and it's taken ages for them to arrive. But all these is essentially across these pins that you can see here is 220 ohm resistors. So see if I can fix the white balance there a little bit, because everything's gone a little bit orange. I've got a real bad problem with my liver by the looks of that camera. I don't know if any of these buttons will actually help with that. One of these buttons on the top do actually sort that out. But anyway, so across each of these pins horizontally are 220 ohm resistors. And so I could have done this with discrete resistors, but I mean, in my past, and I've been working with electronics for years and years and years, these resistor packs were just so much easier. Just stick them in and you just solder them, rather than having to bend all the pins and everything for a resistor. And they just look neater. But turns out everything's gone surface mount since the last time I did any of this stuff seriously. And getting through-hole dip versions of these is pretty hard. Expensive, in fact. I think they were like £2 per pack or something. Per pack, I mean per item in the UK. And I wasn't willing to pay that. I wanted like 20. And 40 quid's worth of just those was going to annoy me. So I didn't mind waiting, because I had to wait for the PCBs. So I ordered them from Mauser, and I also bought some new ESP32s and some Wi-Fi modules and stuff like that at the same time. So they're going to go in these little holes here. So I'm just going to pop them in there. Now there's going to be an ordering to this assembly, because if I turn it over, obviously we've got the buttons will go in here, and the Pico will go on this left-hand side here, and the two resistor packs, and then all the LEDs. Now, if I was to solder the header pins to the Pico, for instance, and actually it's going to go this way up. The pin's going to go that way up. If I was to solder that all into there, I can now not solder the Cherry MX key switches on. I had a horrible realization that was going to be a problem, but it's very easily solved, and you just do it in a certain order. So we'll put the headers in for the Pico into the board, and these two, and solder them lot in first. Now, when I've finished soldering these headers on there, I'm going to have to chop the legs off, because they're quite long. I try and show you, they're quite long, they are, and the box I've printed, I've made it slightly shorter, less tall, but that means that the PCB itself will be quite close to the bottom of the case there, and that's just going to be too close. So I'm going to have to chop those right off, and kind of hope really that the whole thing fits. Again, this is all untested, so it might be that I need to print out a new one of these, but again, that's not a problem. It's a few hours worth of printing. I should have used SMD. Yeah, I mean, I did think that, but have you seen SMD resistors? Oh my lord, they're diddy. I'm trying to solder SMD resistors. I mean, Mr. Quasar Sam Coupe there, I don't know if... I can't even remember what your boards... whether they use SMDs or not. But, I mean, SMD chips, they're not too bad. You just get the heat gun on those. But tiny, tiny little resistors. And I mean, this is the pair of pliers that I've got. I'd probably need to go and buy myself. Well, I've got some tweezers as well, but you've got to hold the tweezers in place and then sort of, try and solder it with your soldering iron. And I didn't fancy having to do that. But yeah, the next version I might do that. I use three hole wherever possible. Yeah, I mean, it's way easier to work with. And to be fair, space isn't the problem. If I was going to get these manufactured, then I'd absolutely use SMD, and I'd just get somebody else to do that, and then have the ovens that they put them through there, and they just do through hole the SMD baths of solder, and yeah, it's just the assembly's done by a machine then at that point with the pick and place and everything. So that's definitely what I'd do. Flux in a heat gun, yeah. I don't. It's not as easy as that. When these resistors are like, I don't know, that big, tiny little things. So trying to place those when you've got 16 of them to put in there, just a bit too difficult for what I wanted to do, and I didn't need to. But I mean, to be fair, if I was going to do anything, I'd swap those out for discrete resistors because there's enough space to put them all in there. It was just easier to do it that way. So yeah, they'll go in 2 headers, and then these 2 resistor packs will go in, and so I need to turn it over. Now obviously if I turn that over, then the resistor pack's just going to fall out, so those headers, they can wait till later. I'll move that out of the way and this out of the way, and I'm going to move my Pico producer back out of the way as well and just make some space. There we go. Right, so the first things to do is to get these 2 resistor packs in, and it doesn't matter if you get them the wrong way up because they're mirrored essentially. So if I was to put them the wrong way up, then you're still going to get 2 lots of 220 ohms, or 8 lots in this case. So it doesn't make any odds, but let's make it correct. So I can turn that over and we can have a go. So I tend to solder just like 1 pin or 2 pins on each, and then just make sure that it's flat, because I like these things to look good. The other thing to notice on here, by the way, is that you'll see that this row of pins actually overlaps the edge of the buttons. Now it's okay, but I am going to have to make sure I chop off the top of them as well, potentially, because it might just impinge there a little bit. So that is something I'm going to have to do as well. So yeah, again, I mean, I couldn't really fit it in any other way. That was the only way I could really fit that in. Go on, get over there now. So I'm going to put it here. That might not be the best place for you. And actually I'm going to flatten it off by putting the Pico underneath it there, which is fine for now. So now I've been having a few problems with my soldering iron as well, so that'll be a laugh, where for some reason solder just wasn't melting. Now it seems alright actually. It's not too bad, but you see it's not actually sticking to the soldering iron. So I mean, I would have expected that to stick. So having some, there we are. So just having some issues with that recently. I bought some new tips as well. If any use, RS have dip resistor packs, 66p. A pack of 25. It was 220 ohms that I was using, although to be fair, I suppose 220 ohms is just a nominal value. I had a quick look, and I'm sure I couldn't find any. So by all means, stick a... Oh, you won't be able to stick a link in the chat. Send me a tweet with a link to that. Because, yeah, if you found those, then it could have saved me a lot of bother. Bourne's isolated. Yeah, that's exactly it. Ah, damn it. Oh, typical. Yeah, it's a lot of use, because if I can get them dead easy, then I'll just stick with this. Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks. I'll have a look at that. So let's see what happens here. Let's see if I can get this to solder. No, it's not too bad. I'm just going to do a pin on each for now. I just want to make sure that these are in nicely, and they are. So I'm happy with that. So I can keep going. I learnt to solder when I was at college, and that was in 1990, I don't know, 3, I want to say, somewhere around there. So I've been soldering for years, but that doesn't make me an expert by any stretch of the imagination. My soldering is okay, but there are people that do this for a job that will probably look at my soldering technique and go, oh Lord, what are you trying to teach people? And that's not what I'm doing here. I am not trying to teach you how to solder. Because if you want to do that, then go and learn from an expert that knows exactly what they're doing. But all I've done is got a technique that seems to work for me. So, oh, Johnny Chips is here. Hey, how's it going? I'm hoping that people will at least see that I can solder, which is a useful thing to be able to do. Go away. Google's wants to get in on the action now. It's popping up. So let's get these soldered in. Looks like my soldering iron is holding its own, so that's not too bad. And obviously, shout in the chat. I mean, and I watched Dean and Johnny do some soldering, and Mr. Quasar down there. I'm well aware that you are very proficient at soldering. Is it? I don't know, Cliff. I think you've done soldering as well, haven't you? So I'm pretty sure that everybody in the chat that is talking, at least. Welcome to the Pro Solder Street. Well, again, I'd argue with that a little bit, but I mean, if it kind of works and doesn't fall out, then I'm happy at that point. Clear, yeah, he just lost. It's no surprise there. IoT peeps. So that's not too bad. I mean, some people would argue that that's a little bit bulbous, perhaps. So I've got those in. So I'm going to chop the ends off those pins now, the ones that border the buttons. Now I've got a nice pair of snips for that I've had since I was at college. That's how long these I've had these snips for. So Draper. So they're probably not the sharpest anymore, but they work nicely. I've got a bigger pair of snips that I might use later on when I'm trying to snip these. It might be that the bigger snips are going to work better when I'm snipping them off. But for these will work quite well. Just bear in mind, if you are an amateur and you're doing this, when you start snipping off stuff like this, they can fly everywhere. And if you've got electronics around you, which you most likely have because you're soldering, you can end up blowing stuff up. And I mean, I've got a Raspberry Pi behind me, so the last thing you want is bits of metal flying around you. I mean, if it flew into this monitor, for instance, that would be bad. Yeah, exactly. So what you can do is you just stick your finger over where you're snipping, and then you can take it with you and it's there. So I'm not going to snip off much for these. I'm just going to take it down as far as the solder, but it should just give the button a little bit more free space. I'm only going to snip the ones I need to as well, by the way, just because. And if anybody ever looks at it, then they'll never know. But I didn't know where else. If I was using, again, if I was taking Cliff's very, very sage suggestion there that I use SMDs, then they would just fit. You know, well, I could stick them around anywhere I want then at that point because they're diddy. But I just didn't fancy the soldering job. So let's have a look. How's that look? Looks pretty okay to me. So I can test that with a bouton out of this lot down here and just see what that looks like. So I'm just going to take a button out of here for now temporarily. There is a tool to do this, but my 3D printed case is quite pliable, so they come out quite easily. But yeah, in general use, you should use the tool because you've got these little tabs on these key switches that keep it in, and if you snap them off, then your key switch is going to start coming out. So I just wanted to see how that looks and put that in. So it seems to fit just about okay in there. It's not tilting much, a little bit, but it should be okay. Just about. I mean, it's not ideal, but I couldn't really think of what else to do there because that's the spacing of the buttons that I've chosen. I mean, theoretically, what I could have done is made the whole board wider. But then I would have had to have changed all my CAD. Now, I've got the STLs for these, but I've not got anything else. So I've been faffing in Tinkercad with the box that actually Cliff and his son Mac have designed. And they've taken that. They've taken that from another macro keyboard layout that had like 8 buttons and made it into a 12-button one. So my 3D skills aren't awesome. I was able to make this, and I was quite impressed that I was able to make this. So that's what that is. So that seems to be okay in there anyway. It's not ideal. I'm just going to pop this button back in again. By the way, for the buttons, you'll need to put the 2 pins here towards the LED at the top, and that's the side that this is going to go on from there. So I mean, I've had nightmares about when I was doing this that I'd solder the Pi in or the resistor packs in on the wrong side. But, you know, the silk screen on there should help you guide that. There was a great article in Hackspace about SMD and using a cheap £35 heat gun designed for desoldering. Yeah, I mean, I've got a heat gun here that I use for that sort of stuff. There you go. So this soldering station's got one, and I've got a bunch of different attachments that go on the end there, and I've done chips. But resistors, oh, jeez. Cliff, have you done SMD resistors? Have you soldered them? And how did you get on with that? That's that keycap back on again. So next, yeah, but a while back, yeah. So I mean, you must have steadier hands than me as well. Normally when I'm soldering, my hands are going, oh, shaking for some reason. Probably because I'm excited. So next up, we're going to do these headers here. Look, these header pins, which will mean it's going to be slightly harder to get soldering in there, but it's not going to be too bad. I'll be able to go in sideways, so I'll be able to solder them on. Now these, I don't know if you can see, but these move when you're doing that, and when they do that, if you're not careful, then you can end up with the whole thing tipping in or out, and unless it's exactly straight, then you're going to end up with not being able to get your Pico to go on. So it's pretty important that you get those first couple nice and straight. And I see actually one of these pins is slightly bent as well, so I'm going to straighten that before I do anything else. This one here, actually, this top one is slightly bent. Johnny, what time's your stream? Can you stick it in a breadboard? Yeah, maybe. Probably not a bad idea, but the breadboards that I've got, they're really tough to get in. Certainly the more of them you use. So, but you're right. That's absolutely one way of doing it. But I don't mind. Normally what I do is just stick a bit of solder on the end of my iron, and then solder a couple of the pins on, and then just sort of hold it in place until I get it in the right, nice and straightness. And that usually does me. So that's sort of how I've done it in the past. Some people actually 3D print rigs to be able to do this sort of stuff, and I'd be tempted, because obviously I've got 5 of these green ones and 2 more of these purple ones. So whatever you can do to make that job easier for yourself is a good idea. So I'm going to do it the way that I'm going to try and do it the way that I would normally do it. My wife has also gone shopping, and the 2 kids are in there probably killing each other. So if you hear screaming and stuff, then that is my children in the background. So yeah, so solder. And normally what I'd do is grab a little bit and bend it up like that, and then stick my iron on it. And this is where the problem with my soldering iron appears. Well, it is actually sticking to that. And then I just tag a little bit. I know it doesn't need to be particularly tidy, because I can tidy that up in a minute. And then just make sure that it's pretty straight, and that's actually not bad. That's pretty straight, that is. But I can fettle with that in a minute, and then do that again. Just a little bit of solder. And they're pretty straight, actually, not too bad. So that's how I normally do it. Yeah, I'm happy enough with them. They're straight-ish, and in fact I can test it, can't I? Because I can just try sticking the Pico in, and it's going to go up that way up, making sure that I can get it to go in. I can. So I'm happy enough with that. If I can get that to go in like that after I finish soldering it, then it's a job well done. Oh, by the way, likewise on this layout, this faceplate here, when you put all of the buttons in like that, I think I've got it pretty sorted now. So what's this? Aren't you supposed to be on in a call in 2 minutes, Johnny? I'm on leave, I think. Yeah, might want to get that sorted out, especially if you're supposed to be leading the call there, Dean. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so this grid of buttons lines up pretty perfectly with the layout on there now. I had to modify that as well, so that, I mean, this is essentially a 3D printed rig to be able to solder this on. So obviously it'll go on the other side, and it lines up pretty perfectly. So it just kind of slots in, which makes this whole job a lot easier afterwards, because once it's not perfect, I'm still going to have to do a little bit of fettling, but it does work pretty well. I'm happy enough with that. But anyway, yeah, these 2 first. So let's get them soldered. I'll drink of water first. Oh. I'm soldering where I wouldn't normally solder as well. So I've got like the soldering base station underneath this monitor over there. So I'm hoping nothing happens to that while I'm doing this. Normally I'd be soldering behind me over there and sort of keep this area just for programming. But in the interest of streaming, I've decided to come over here. So let's see if I can prop that up with something. I don't think that's going to work. No, it's too high. A few of these PCBs will work, look. Maybe two. Look at that. There we are. Obviously, the level, the more level you can keep this soldering area, the more chances of this actually being straight by the time you've finished. So I'm actually just going to solder the two end pins from both of these and just make sure that it's still nice and straight. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks pretty much okay to me. So again, I can test that. Let's just make sure that the Pico slots in nicely, and it does. So I'm happy enough with that. You can see how far above the Pico that... I mean, I've probably got the wrong headers, essentially, is what I've got. I should have had headers that are the same height. But to be fair, there's a few reasons why I kept it like this. In that I can take this out, and these unused GPIOs, I can stick those wires onto the end if I want to, and make some use of them and do something else with them, perhaps for some prototyping. But what I will do is these bottom ones down here, I'll snip them off and probably just leave the rest as it is because it's an angled box. So, oh geez, overexposing my white box there. It's going to be difficult. There we are. No, but you can see from the outside anyway, it's angled. So these pins at this sort of height aren't going to matter. It's only the ones down at the bottom that care. So let's solder the rest of that in, shall we? Did I get an answer out of you, Johnny, about what time you're streaming? Haven't you got a stream today? I'll go for the top down. Like, I forget, is it income? No, it's your roundup, isn't it? Your community roundup today, I think. What time's that on? Maybe you've had to go for a meeting that you've forgotten about. 12:30 today. Cool. Just finished your vid. So maybe I'll get a screenshot in there of me starting this then. In the what's Pete been doing this week in IoT section of your show. If you've not been watching this channel, by the way, Cliff Aegis and myself have been chatting about IoT, and we've also had the cracking Benjamin Carbe join us for a LoRaWAN workshop. Just a sec. Yeah. Daddy, you got a nail. Okay, just leave it there, please. Thank you. Yeah, so I've bought these. I bought a LoRaWAN gateway and some LoRaWAN sensors. One sec. Yeah. It's like Piccadilly Circus or something in here. A LoRaWAN gateway and some LoRaWAN sensors, and Benjamin had produced a series of... Thank you, Evie! A series of workshop instructions, and we've been running through essentially his talk live, getting this LoRaWAN gateway and sensors hooked up to a Things Network server instance in Azure. So you kind of provision your gateway and point the gateway at that instance, and then you get some sensors and you hook them up. And once you've done that, then you can provision an Azure Digital Twins instance in Azure and an Azure function, and from that Things Network server instance, you can use a webhook to go out to that Azure function, and then that Azure function can take that LoRaWAN sensor data and upsert it into the Azure Digital Twins instance, and then using the Azure Digital Twins Explorer tool, you can visualize that a little bit, which is kind of just, an easy way to do it. You wouldn't do it in production that way. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Oh look, I left the left the Pico on there when I was doing that. So I'm happy enough with that. Well, that was probably a good thing to do, actually, because it kind of made sure that those nothing moved while I was doing it. Handy tip for the future. The bin lorry is coming now as well, so you get all sorts of noise this time of the morning. Theoretically, I should be writing the script for my Pluralsight course, which I need to get done, but that can wait till after I've done this, because I was very excited about getting this up and running. So that is those two resistor pack chips and the headers for my Pico in there, and I'm happy enough with that. That looks okay to me. So that's all of the soldering on that side of the board done now. All the rest of the soldering is going to happen from the other side, this side where these components are. And there's a few things I need to do. So the easiest way to do this, now you've got these LEDs and this here. Look. So what we can do is we can stick the LEDs in the board already, and then we can put this onto the board, and I'll show you a little thing that we've got to do while we do that. So again, I need to make sure I get all of this the right way up. Now the long pin is the positive pin, and these square pins are ground. Or at least I hope they are, because that's the way round I'm soldering this. So if no lights come on, then that'll be the reason why. But it was the same on, we can't see it now, but on this board, you see all of these square pins on the Pico there are ground as well. And it's actually going to be, I don't know if I can get it to focus this far up. Let's have a look. I don't think it will. I thought there was a way I could get it to do that, but oh no, there we are. Look, so it will do it. There we go. You can just about see now that these are late. If I put it the right way up, I might be able to read it then. The square ones are labelled ground, and that's the same for the rest of the stuff on the board. So look at that. There we are. Learning how to. This is an Okio cam I'm using here, by the way. It's fantastic for exactly what I'm using it for here. Normally I would have used my phone, but soldering like this would have been very difficult. So this Okio cam is fantastic for this, and thanks to Stu Lowe for recommending that as well. So we put all these LEDs in from this side of the board, and long leg in, short leg in the square pin basically. Put all these in, short leg in the square. There we go. And obviously, because of how this is going to go together, you kind of need to make sure that you're going to get this right from the start, because taking all of this lot back out again will be a royal pain. So I'm just, every time I'm doing this, I'm just making sure that I'm going to get these in the right way. Everything I've done so far doesn't really matter. There was no polarity on what I was doing, but obviously LEDs, we know, they only work one way round. So long leg for the one that's not square. And I'm trying to do this while I'm holding this in. This is what helping hands are over here for. So if I stick that on there and then this on there, that's what these helping hands are here for. So that would make more sense for me to do that. Then you'll be able to see what I'm doing. If you've not got a pair of helping hands, go and get a pair of helping hands. Although there are way better helping hands than the ones that I'm using here. These ones, again, I think I've had these since I was at college. They are that old. That magnifying glass isn't worth a damn anymore because it's all scratched. Actually, mainly because my daughter keeps taking it and using it as a magnifying glass, and kids aren't that careful with stuff, as you're probably well aware. Just finished your videos, Microsoft Ignite Special. Oh, sorry, I missed that. Yeah, so Microsoft Ignite Special, yeah, so no mention of me in this one whatsoever then. Well, I'm not going to watch then. I kid. Go watch. It'll be on. It's on this channel, isn't it? I think. You don't think you do the community roundup on your own channel? I can't remember now. You were thinking of me, Johnny. Oh, that's nice of you. I bought Helping Hands in Tandy. Yeah, I've got a picture of me and my sister outside of a Tandy. We weren't actually going in the Tandy. We were on a night out getting drunk, but the Tandy happened to be in the background. And Tandy was fantastic. It was Maplin of the day, but actually better than Maplin's in a lot of way, I think. It's a real shame that I heard a notification. I'm not quite sure where it came from. Either way, it was like the Maplins of the day. A real shame that and Maplins now has disappeared because it did fulfil a need. But I mean, the business model unfortunately doesn't work anymore because you buy components online for 1/10 of the price. So yeah, that's all of that. And now, while I've been talking and doing this, I'm doubting whether or not I've done all these the right way around. So I can double check anyway. You won't be able to see this because if I try and turn this upside down, I can turn this upside down and sort of hold on to the LEDs. So I'm just going to sort of make sure that the long leg is on the right hand side of all of them. And it is. So that's good. So this is the part I was telling you about earlier. So if you get these in first, so they're kind of in there. Now, normally what I'd do if I was soldering these down, I'd just bend the legs askew and it would keep the LEDs in place. But I don't want it to do that, actually, because there's a gap between the faceplate and the LED then, and it's just not going to shine through. So I'm going to put this over the top of it, and the good thing is it'll also keep the LEDs captive while I'm doing that. So I'm just going to stick that over the top. So that's okay, but you can sort of see that they don't poke all the way through if you do that. So I'm just going to make sure I'm not bending any legs or anything, but if I tip it up, that way up, then actually this is quite good. But what you need to do is make sure that when you do that, that the LEDs have gone in through the hole. And some of them are actually quite difficult to see, but you can kind of feel your way into doing it. And sorry, I'm probably obscuring the camera there. But you can see most of them. It's just some in the middle that you can't see. But you can kind of, if you waggle them, they'll just drop into the hole. There we go. That's gone in. That's gone in. And then you'll know anyway when you turn it over eventually. But if I turn that over, they'll all fall back out again. So what I could do at this point is bend the legs, which I probably will, to be fair, because I just want to make sure that it's all in there. But I can't do it from this angle, but I can lift it up and just make sure that everything looks like it's okay. And this is me just, I pushed on it and it pushed the faceplate out. So you can probably see what I'm doing anyway on the other camera. And just make it, oh, one of my keycaps fell off. That's a disaster. I like the keycaps on there because it's going to keep it nice and steady for me. There we go. So I think that's probably okay. Now, I could bend the legs, but I don't think I need to because they're going to be kept in the right place anyway because gravity. So I was going to solder them in first and then the buttons, I think. I don't know. Or maybe the buttons first and then the LEDs because the LEDs can move then to the right position. So I'm pushing down at the moment just to make sure that all the buttons are going to go through. Now, it's actually quite hard to see whether the pins are actually making their way through, and because they're pushed up against the copper. So I'm just feeling with my fingers to make sure that I've not bent a pin on one of the buttons. Now that's important because obviously once I've started soldering this, I don't want to have to desolder anything. But it is quite easy to accidentally bend one of those Cherry MX key switch pins underneath the button rather than it going through the hole. And you don't want to find that out after you've soldered everything and get to the end and go, oh, the last one hasn't got a pin anymore, because that button will not work, obviously. And also it could be shorting things out and all sorts. So I'm just double checking and triple checking that everything has got what it needs to have in there. And it has. All looks good. Now, I said this isn't actually perfect. So it's kind of, I think if I push on one side, it's going to lift the other side up. So I kind of need to kind of keep it pushed down and do a bit of soldering wickedry again. So I'm going to do that same thing that I did before, I think. I don't know, let's have a look. Yeah, see, it's not bad actually. But they are lifting up just a touch when I do that, and I'd like them to be nice and flat. So let's do this way, look. And these are bigger holes, so I'm going to take a bit more solder. But I'm just going to push this down and just do that again, just so that it's definitely going to be all the way in, and then wait. If I don't wait, then that solder's not going to go off. And I pull it out and it could just make a mess, or it can pull the through hole out or anything. Each of these pins, by the way, has got what's called through hole plating. So you've got the part that you're soldering to goes all the way through the board with copper to the other side, linking those two sides of the board through the hole, which is dead useful for when you need to flip sides, because you can flip sides when you hit a pin rather than having to create a via. I bought helping. It's easy to snap. I bought Helping Hands to do the solder stream. There you are. I think you bought ones with like lamp on and everything, though, didn't you, Johnny? It was quite cool. And quite easy to snap them as well. Yeah, funnily enough, this is kind of like get these in here and soldered fast, because there's a good chance that one of these pins is going to snap because of the bending that it's had. The lamp was rubbish, was it? Oh, sorry about that. Oh, I didn't recommend it, so I don't know why I'm apologising. Right, and again, I'm going to do that. I'm just going to push it down over here and needs plenty of solder because it's a big old hole and the pin isn't actually all that big. And again, by the way, when we get to the point where I plug this in, if it doesn't work, then you can console me, yeah? I'm hoping it'll be fine, but this is the first board I've designed since I was about 19, really. So there is every chance that this won't work the first time, and I'll need to then modify things to get that to work. But I'm hoping against hope that I've not done that. I did check the circuit before I sent it away to be manufactured, so it should be okay. Right, so I've only done one pin on those, so remind me if I forget. Just a couple of LEDs that are not very bright. Oh, okay. Well, that's disappointing. So that's those buttons, and they look like they are pretty much okay. Although, you know, it kind of looks like I'd want to push that in a little bit further, that one. But it's not bad. It's okay. I think it's fine in like it is. We'll see. Let's see what happens. As long as I get it soldered, it's okay, and so long as they're square enough to, and doing this will keep them square as well, of course. So, right, these ones in the middle now. I'm just going to do one side of them, and then I've got a chance then of modifying it if I need to. The concentration out of the man. Of course, in this top-down view, you just get to see the top of my grey hair. But, you know, you shouldn't really be looking at that view because that's not the interesting view. There we go. I mean, all of you, we talked about soldering earlier. All of you, I think, have done soldering. What is it that you were doing? Was it part of your job, or is it a hobby, or what? What were you doing to be doing soldering? I mean, I said I was. Oh, look at this. I thought I'd missed one. I started making those robotic bomb disposal equipment. That was the first thing that I did. So, but then I went on and we made change machines and cash handling equipment and stuff like that. And then, to be fair, I've not done a massive amount of electronics in my own company. Mostly people come to me for software and not for electronic design. And I wouldn't class myself as, you know, if somebody said, you know, we're going to hire you and programming will be the small part of the job and it's mostly electronics design, I wouldn't be going for that particular job. Love the caution sticker on the solder reel. Yeah, what's it saying? It's saying it contains lead. So this is leaded solder I'm using, by the way. Very naughty solder, but I tend to it works better. And I've been using it all my life and I'm not dead yet. So just make sure you wash your hands afterwards, yeah? I was taught when I was doing my engineering apprenticeship at Ford Motor Company. There you go. Very good. That's some engineering apprenticeship to get. So that's one side of all of those down, and all the buttons appear to work. The only issue with the buttons is the keycaps, not the buttons themselves. Like that, just fall off, look. Stick that back on again. There we go. Yeah, I need to play with that. So I'm just going to now make sure that all of these LEDs go in. And I'm going to turn it over in a second. You won't be able to see it. And just make sure that they're poked through. They look like they are. They look like they are to me. Looking good. Yeah. So I'm actually going to solder them before I solder the... Well, I don't know. It doesn't really matter at this point. This is the last bit to do, essentially, is this. So, oh, no. It's not, because we've got that to solder yet. I'm lying to you. So let's solder these. These are a little bit more awkward because the pins are close together. So looks good. Cool. I'm going to do all these right hand side ones first, then flip it around and do the other ones. I probably should have got you to dial in, Cliff, and then you could have been chatting to me while I was doing this, and I would have had a good distraction. Did have a 10 a.m. call, but client is still not here, so just hanging out. Oh, that's fair. Yeah, so you would have said no anyway. I've just cleaned the soldering iron there, which is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because sometimes it can take off the flux off the tip, which is a bit of a pain, because then it takes a while to get the soldering iron tip back in shape. Right, so that's one side, and I'm very much a one-sided type person there. So kind of just, it gives me more of a chance to get things right if I've got it a bit wrong. It looks okay to me. They look okay. So that way round now. I'm going to do all the rest of these now. Come on. Of course, you know, this is thrilling to watch, but thankfully there's not that many pins to solder. There's obviously, I've got 40 of them to do there in a second, but I'm pretty sure that you just want to watch this on 2x on YouTube instead of live if there was many pins to solder. There's only so much waffling I can do. Well, that's them. Let's do the other side of the boutons. This is where this rig is dead handy, of course, because theoretically it should keep everything in place while I'm doing this side of the board, the most complicated side of the board. So handy. I'm assuming that actually there's no SMD, or there might be an SMD Cherry MX key switch. I've not looked. It kind of feels like there wouldn't be, because I'm not sure how you'd flow solder underneath a key switch. Right. That is all of them done. Let's see. Can't see, theoretically, can't see the LEDs in a normal way. Funnily enough, my 10 a.m. call with Dean was a non-starter as well. All right, I see. Now I have an 11 a.m. call with him instead, and he's on annual leave. Go figure. Right, fair enough. Dean, are you Johnny's manager, or is it just like your co-workers, or what it is? What is it that you pair do at BT? What is it you do? I'm happy enough with that. Pretty happy. I mean, the soldering job is okay. Agricultural, some people would say. I don't think so. I think it's reasonable. I'm happy enough with that. This tip is doing me well at the moment. So I can chop off those dangling legs on these LEDs now, and again hold your pin when you're doing it, because well, I mean, you've got eyes as well, yeah, so you don't want this to fly up into your eye. That's the worst thing. And you know, really, if I was doing this and kids were watching, then we're supposed to teach people to wear goggles to do this. And also, you know, you need extraction. Certainly if you're going to be using naughty solder like I'm using here, then you should have some form of extraction, or at least do it in a reasonably well ventilated area. And my office is reasonably ventilated, so I'm happy enough with my environment. And I don't do a fast amount of soldering, you know, once in a while. So these ones are awkward to get to. I think I remember at college when we were doing soldering, when we were being taught how to solder, having quite a lot of fun by not holding onto pins like this and firing them up into the air and annoying people around me. So that's all of them snipped off. So that looks good. So now it's the Pico. And obviously this one, we need to make sure this goes in the right way as well. So it's quite easy to match them up though, because GP0 is this top left-hand pin over here. So, and then the USB at the top, and the USB then needs to come out where the LEDs are. So that looks okay to me like that. You know, whenever you do these things, it's like, is it though, Pete? Are you sure? But yeah, I mean, you can see all of these grounds are lining up with the square pins. So it kind of, that's where your confidence comes in. When you've got this on the silk screen, it gives you a better idea that you are doing things correctly. So you see that there's on here there's more copper to the right hand side. So that's the side that I'll be soldering from. That side there, rather than from the other side where there's not that much copper, but it will flow round because the flux will help it flow round, the flux that's in the solder. So let's get on with this. I'm just making sure that the Pico's lying flat. Concentrating now. Happy Friday, everyone, by the way. Thank you for choosing to watch me solder instead of the obviously infinite number of other things you could be doing with your time. Back on the IoT live show that Cliff and I do, we will be back on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Cliff won't be several thousand feet in the air. He'll be decidedly actually in the country, because I think you've done shows now from Dallas and from LA, and didn't you do one in Seattle as well, in fact? Or did you even do one in Dallas? I can't remember. Let me go to Dallas. But so that looks good so far. I mean, it's okay. It's yeah. I don't see any solder bridges, so you know, I'm happy enough. Seattle as well. All three off to DFW tomorrow. Dallas. I've never been to Dallas. My parents used to watch Dallas on the telly, if that helps you. That used to be my bedtime, of course. I always remember that music. That and bloody Falcon Crest. I used to love that, they did. Didn't they try and bring one of those back? I can't remember now. Anyway. What did you reckon to Ignite? There was quite a few IoT announcements, but I didn't actually. I've been too busy to actually catch up on it. But I did read Sam George's summary there on the IoT blog, the tech community blog. I went looking for JR, but he's still actually dead now. Yeah, I think he actually is dead this time, not just a dream in the shower. Forever living infamy. I mean, you can see on this Pico here, look. You probably can't even see, but there are SMD components on here, and you can get some really tiny SMD components, and you've got no hope whatsoever of soldering those by hand. The ones that Cliff is talking about, the SMD components, are a lot larger. You can do it, you absolutely can do it, but I didn't need to, so I didn't, Cliff. Azure Precept, yeah, indeed, and in fact, I'm trying to get one. I don't know whether or not I will or not. I'm just going to speak to the IoT team really nicely and tell them that we will stream about it and give them free advertising if they send one across. So if you're listening, IoT team, then you know my address. Send it over, and Cliff and I will have a play. In fact, send two. Obviously, Cliff will need one. In fact, just send us all one, and we'll all just jump on a stream and do something fun. Let's spread the love, shall we? So that's the Pico soldered in. And as I say, these pins down here are going to bang into the bottom of my case. And in fact, now that we've done all of that, I'm going to pop it in the case, and we can sort of see that it's not sitting all the way down. Now, it won't sit all the way down anyway, but most of that is caused by those pins. But I'm not going to chop them off right now, and it doesn't actually feel too bad. It works okay. Probably if I just put a couple of nuts in there, KP, obviously, then it would be okay. Now, I think we've soldered it. I think it's done. This button keeps dropping off, which is quite annoying. Now, theoretically, what I could do at this point is I've got some alcohol here, isopropyl alcohol, and one of the kids' old toothbrushes. So I could actually polish this up, but I'm not going to do that now, because if I've got to desolder stuff, then it's probably better to leave it as it is. Cliff's right, power. I'm worried though. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to plug it into my power bank. Jeez, I nearly dropped the... I've got a glass of water here and the power bank next to it and the lead hanging out, and I nearly dropped the lead into the water. That would have been fun, wouldn't it? USB-C to USB, whatever. So I'm going to plug this in here and see what it does. We're not going to see an LED because it'll only work when it thinks it's connected as a HID device. But what I don't see is any flashes of light or anything. And in fact, I don't even see any power come on, because the Pico takes so little power that it just doesn't register as a device. You have to stick a load across it to get it to work. So that is as much of a test as I need to do there, I think. I'm going to plug it in. I'm scared. I'm allowed to be scared. Yeah, bang. So I'm going to unplug my Pico producer. There's my Pico producer. Unplug that. You probably heard the diddle in the background. And now I'm going to try plugging this in. And I've already put the software on there. It's all tangled. All my wires are tangled. Really what I'm doing here is just putting off the inevitability that it's not going to work. We'll see. Don't laugh at me if it doesn't work. When it went dink did a dink. Oh, that's interesting. So that button's not... Oh, have we got some wiring mixed up here? Look at these, look. I might need to alter my... Oh no, what's going on here, do you think? Ah! That one's not working at all, and that one's off by one. Oh no, what's going on? I mean, that sort of a problem is not really a problem, because I can just change the software to fix that. but I don't know quite what's going on with that. So that, well, it looks like I've got some wiring wrong here somewhere. I might fix that while I'm live. But I mean that's not too bad. Actually, it looks quite. Oh, I wonder if I turn the lights off, it might be a bit easier to see. And this as well, maybe. Oh, there we go. Something like that. So I've got the wiring wrong somewhere. Yeah, it is something wrong somewhere. But I mean, I can fix it in software. That's the good thing about the software, of course. It looks like all the buttons are actually connected, aside from maybe that one. Because that one doesn't appear to be lighting anything up. So figure out what's going on. I'm going to turn the lights back on again now. I checked all of this as well, so I'm not quite sure what is happening there. It is also possible that I wired my original Pico producer incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure that at least 2 other people have made this so far, so that's probably not the case. So I think I've got a little application that I installed for keyboard shortcuts. I can't remember what it's called. No. But I can do it in OBS theoretically. But I'm sure I installed a little application that I'm going to turn my soldering iron off because nothing I've done here is wrong. Just looks like I've got an error in my PCB design. I'll have to go back and check that. Control Alt Delete. Yeah, that's the one. Turn it off and back on again. Yeah, all of those things, Carl. Hey, Carl, by the way. Nice to see you. What was that application? Let me see if I can find it. You won't be able to see what I'm doing here because I'm not sharing my screen. Show. Oop. Keyboard input. What was it? Touch keyboard button. Let's have a look. It was dead good as well. It kind of put the key. Maybe it was I installed it on my other machine. It's entirely possible. Show touch keyboard button. Touch. Turn the touchpad on or off. Let's have a look. Not used this before, so tell you what. Let me. Oh well, I could. Right, I don't know if touchpad is on. No, I don't think that's what it is. Because it's giving control keys out. Don't know if that's going to help either. Ease of access, keyboard, use your device, and enabling the on-screen keyboard. No, I don't want any of these things. Possible to show. Let's have a look at this. I should be sharing my screen, really. Carl Coes. Oh, thank you. That was nice of you, Carl. Thank you. If you only had a Pico producer to share your screen, yeah, exactly. Tell you what, let me see if I can. If I do this, oops, this one, I'm going to add an extra. What do I want? Desktop. I'll do a window capture actually, and I can capture that and do OK. I'll move this out of the way. Oh dear. Something like this. Then you'll be able to see what it is I'm looking at. There. Yeah, something like this. There, now you can see what it is that I'm actually doing. So that's not what I actually want. Mookie, keyboard and mouse keystrokes in the correct order. What's that then? Gumroad.com. Mookie. Oh, don't know what all that is. This product is not currently for sale. What's that? $5,000? What some words that I could use to say that. Show key. Let's put a different. Oh, my keyboard's over here. Key presses on the screen. Windows 10. That's what we want. Not on-screen keyboard. Oh, I had to show keystrokes in Windows 10. Is that where I just was? It's because I'm using Bing. That's why. Look, there's the problem. Straight away. Karnak. Open source doesn't need to be started. It might be this actually. It might be the thing that I'm after. Just make sure that I've not got it installed already. Karnak, nope. Because I'm running OBS on this machine as well, it's being slow. Can you just use serial print in the code? I could. There is indeed a USB debugger. I've never used it. People have talked about it. Yeah, indeed. I've used it actually. This is what I want. This is what I wanted. So this is what I had before. So release.zip. So I mean, yeah, I've done something wrong somewhere, which is a little bit disappointing actually, as I did check it. But hey ho, I'll go and have a look and see what it was that I did wrong. I mean, I'm just looking at this top right-hand button, and it looks like it goes to GP2, which is right. No, GP3, GP0, GP1. No, it should go to GP2. It looks like it goes to GP3. Just looking at the trace on there. Oh, as I say, is this a single file executable, or am I going to have to extract this? You're not going to see any of this, unfortunately. Release, and it's not, so I'm going to have to extract it. Stick this somewhere. I'll share my screen in a minute as well, but it gives you that inception effect if you do so. Let's find a temp directory. You can't see what I'm doing, but it doesn't matter. Release. Right, okay, I'm just going to delete this window capture or hide it. And I'm going to share my desktop instead. Display capture. And you'll get the lovely inception effect when I do this. There we go. Inception. Can you link to that, please? Yes, I will do that in a second. Assuming that it does what I expect it to do. So there's the inception effect. But when I flick away from this, then hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Let me just, while I remember, stick a link to this in the chat. Control C. I go back in here, and then I can Control V in there, and then that should be. Oh, this isn't awkward at all. Cheers. There you go. Couldn't read the URL. Yeah, fine. Sorry about that. So release Karnak. Is it Karnak? It's Karnak, isn't it? So I think that's running. See, look, see it says C down there. C times 4 times 5 times 6 down there, bottom right hand corner. So, end, that's saying, interestingly. I wonder if I put old software in here. Down next. I think there's a chance I've put old software on here. I think that's the problem, you know. I think my circuit is okay, but I think maybe I'll just put old software on. What I can do though is let's find out. So I'm going to unplug this one, and I'll be very happy if that's the case. So I'm just going to plug this in there, and it actually mounts itself as a drive, as you can see. Look, so I can just copy this code from here, and I'm just going to put that in a temp directory over here. Now unplug this one. Move him out of the way. Plug this one in. Oh, upside down. Well, it didn't blow up and it made key presses. So, I mean, damn it, that's good all on its own anyway. So, right, let's pop this down here on there. Replace that. It probably still won't work. I'll probably still wired something up wrong. But still. So I'm going to unplug it and plug it back in again. Get it to load that. No, so still not something right, but you can see it's giving me the right. So that is actually Control F1. So it's the LEDs that I've got wired up wrong somehow. But all the buttons are working. So I think I'm hoping that I've actually wired that up to something in that LED, but that is trying to turn an LED on. So let me have a look at the code and just see what I'm doing. Oh, I've gone into some full screen mode somehow. Oh, that's because of my key presses on here. No doubt. How do we get out of this? There we are. So let's have a look at the code, shall we? And do live coding on here. Look. Open with. Oh, there we are. Didn't think I had no code installed on here, but. So it appears to be one out, weirdly. So, and this is some slightly different code to what's in the repo, by the way. Scene 4, scene 5, scene 5, key code, blah blah blah. Button pins, GP0, LED pins, GP12, 13, 15. So, GP12 apparently. Alright, well let's do some debugging this way, shall we? Look. So, you hear that sound there? I'm on diode test mode. So I'm going to switch back to OBS. And I'm going to switch back to here. Of course, I've got it plugged in, not got it plugged in, so I can't screen share. Not screen share. Down at the bottom, I think. On host Okio cam. There we are. So this will beep and the display will change on my meter. So what did I say? It was the LED was supposed to be connected to LED pins GP12. So GP12 is that one. So that should be connected to like one of these LED pins up there. So but it could be the other side, so I need to go back down the other side as well. So I think I've gone one up on my numbers. That's what I'm thinking. So I don't think I've connected GP12. I think I've connected GP13 onwards personally. Yeah. So that's what I've actually done. So all it is just I've got a drop cliff. Oh, thanks for coming along. Don't you have to call the main Python file something? Or is there something else? No, you just call it that code.py and it does it. So that's what I've done. I've wired it up differently to my circuit diagram. Or maybe I've wired it up exactly the same as my circuit diagram and my code's just wrong. So I think if I change all of these to 13, oh geez, everything's in the way because I've crammed everything over here. 13, 14, 15, 16, 13, 14, 15, 16. Hold on a minute. Oh, okay. No, it's not. It doesn't go up like that because I've not used GP15. That's what it is. 13, 14, then 16, 17. Because the GP15 is reserved. 19 for USB. But they don't tell you that. 20. I think actually it's a CircuitPython thing rather than a Raspberry Pi thing. But it did funny things. 23. and then there isn't 23. It's 22, and then 26 and 27 and 28. Then let's try that. 22 and then 26. I'm probably not sharing my screen, so apologies for that. Looks like the description of the stream is still set to post. Oh yeah, you're probably right, actually. Oh, too many things that I needed to do. Quite right. Benjamin's my checker. He spots all these things that I forget. Oh, let me change that quickly, and then it'll be easier. I don't know if it'll change it retrospectively. IoT live. So Benjamin came on saying, I didn't think I was doing this today. What's going on? Live soldering of the Pico producer. Live soldering of the Pico producer. Update information. There you go. So that should have updated. Thanks for pointing that out, Benjamin. Yeah, I know I've closed that window. Right. It's going to go back to my screen share, and then you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. So I'm just altering these numbers in here and just see if I can get them right. Actually, let's just double check one of these as well, because if my thinking is correct, then this GP28 should be connected to one of these pins. Maybe the other side. You know, unless I have done something particularly wrong. There we go. GP28. So that's all I've done. So that's good. I mean, this is an easy fix. We don't need to worry too much about that. So anyway, it goes from 22 and then it skips a bunch and goes 26, 27, 28. 22, 26, 27, 28. Save that. Failed to save because it's not found. Well, yeah, that's pretty obvious because I unplugged it. I'll plug it back in again. Ding, ding, ding. Let's save it now. So that's saved. I'll unplug it again. I'm just going to plug this keycap in and I'm just going to see what it does. Let's Control and M everything and just do this on the desktop. Let's try again. Look at this. Oh, that's just busy. There, look. Oh, I'm showing you. I'm showing you the things, but I'm going to show you now the OcuCam down here. And I'm going to just hide that off the screen. I think you should still be able to see it. I'm going to just double check that you can. It looks like it. So if I press these buttons now, we see all of the LEDs now lighting up. So it's just a software issue. The software didn't align to my PCB. The PCB was fine. Honest. How's that? So I'm going to turn the lights off and do that again so you can actually see. Lights are going off. And I'm just going to reset this. Hopefully it'll be dark enough. Tell you what, I'll close the blinds as well. There we are. Something along those. So and I'm watching the stream back on my phone. It looks good. It looks good. So what I'm going to do though is I'm just going to snip the end off a few of those pins. Or am I? I don't know. Let's have a look. Let's unplug this again. Just put that in there. Let's have a look how it fits. See if I can get this to go in. I think I need to widen the hole on my yeah, the hole's just ever so slightly too big. I can get this back up again and I can see what I'm doing. So ever so slightly too small, I think. I've actually moved it on the latest CAD files, but trying to get this to go in there, it's just not quite going in. So I need to widen that whole. What I need is a file. I've not got any files, which is disappointing. I don't think it's actually anything I'm doing as far as the pins are concerned that's stopping it. It's just this button is very loose. That one is. Let's just try one more time. I don't want to wrench the Pico off the board while I'm doing it. Yeah, no, it's just too tight. So I'm going to leave it out for now. Leave it out! It does actually go in. It's just ever so slightly too. Ding diddle ding. Switch between these. I'm not going to press the very end one because but yeah, that's working to switch between the right things, I think. Let's have a look. Let's compare. Back on that one. So let me just turn the lights back on again. I can't see. Oh, you won't be able to see me properly if I don't turn that back on. So move my helping hands out of the way. So, no help anymore. So on there we are, that's better. I have to like double click a button to get it to fix the that would have been the countdown. You wouldn't have been able to hear me when I did that, of course. But yeah, so I've got, let me go back on here, that one. On here I've got little labels I've printed out, and in fact Kieran from the garage in Dublin has offered to litho print me some of these. So once I've got this working, I'll be sending off my order for him to litho print some of these on vinyl, which is nice. So yeah, I've got little labels, and so I've got one person sharing the screen, which is this button there, which is what that's doing, and then I've got two people, but with the top one sharing the screen, which should be that one, and that it's not going to show you the the Ocio cam because I've kind of stuck the Ocio cam over the top of my screen sharing here. And then this would have been for Cliff to share. So that one there would have been for Cliff to share, and then onwards. And then this one will stop the stream, which I'm nearly about ready to do, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, I'm chuffed with that. What I will do, I think, is I will have a look at the screen sharing one. This one. And I just want to have a look at... let's have a look at the GitHub Pico stream down. Let's have a look at what the circuit diagram's saying and seeing if it really is something I've put in the circuit diagram and I've just wired this wrong. So only one pin gap. Yeah. You know, 1, 2, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think it's just the way I've wired it. I think that last one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 down from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. GP27. Yeah, so I've wired my PCB differently to the. Interestingly, I've missed that, but luckily makes no difference whatsoever. I just need the software to be slightly different, which is the beauty of software, and it's open source. So if it doesn't match your Pico deck, then you can just change it back. It's no great problem. So that is pretty cool. So back to that. So I can put it in the box, but I can't plug it in and use it while it's in there at the moment because I need to make this hole bigger, and making it wider wasn't too bad, but trying to make it taller up here with a pair of snips is too difficult to do. Thanks, Cole. That's really nice of you to say. So much to learn about how OBS works. Yeah, it's good fun actually, and I mean Liam Gulliver would be the person that I'd put, and certainly Johnny as well. They're both very good at OBS. I don't know. I think Benjamin Carbe was there. I don't know if he's still there now, but he's done a bit of OBS work as well, and good work on that too. So there are so many people. Obviously, Layla Porter. If you've never seen her streams, they're awesome. Absolutely fantastic work that they've done there. So there you go. So that is a fully wired up Pico producer. I'm actually quite happy with that. Seems to be working okay. Other than that one little error, but I got over that quite quickly, and everything is good in the world. Yeah. So thank you very much for watching, I suppose. I mean, as I say, next on this channel is going to be Johnny Chips giving us his community overview. And then I don't know if me and Cliff are going to be the next. Or is it? I might have an Azurish Live, I think, possibly next Tuesday. Or is it Wednesday? Oh, geez. I lose track of the days these days. But on the 18th of March, which isn't that long away now, we've got Olivier Bloch coming on Not IoT. I've still got no idea what he's going to talk about, actually, but I'm sure he'll have plenty to say because there's been loads of announcements recently. So that's going to be a good one. So make sure you register for that. That'll be 6:30 GMT. You'll find us on Meetup. So, yeah, thank you so much for tuning in and watching me bungle along, soldering stuff together. But I think, actually, it's a success. Which, you know, in anything in and around coding never works first time, and it didn't, I agree. But it was pretty damn close, and the circuit did work, albeit just not with the... not very well with the circuit that I'd done. Interestingly, I've just seen that this button's slightly off. If you can see that. It's ever so slightly tilted. It's a problem across the side. Across the side of the thing. By the way, just before I go, improvements for this. There's a bunch of stuff that I could do. I could obviously make it all SMD and get somebody else to make it. That would be nice. But one thing that I'm considering is that I could use the USB to serial interface that you've got in the Pico, and instead of sending HID HID keystrokes, I could have a little service running on the machine. I think the Elgato works like this. And so I send serial commands to the service, and then the service interacts with OBS directly. And that would mean that it wouldn't matter which application you were in, you could still press these buttons and it would still control OBS. So that is on my list of things to do, along with many, many other things. So, yeah, well, I hope you've enjoyed this. Anyway, thanks for coming along and interacting. And we'll catch you on the IoT live show on Tuesday night at 9 PM GMT. See you later.